This video is brought to you by Squarespace. From custom domains to beautiful websites using their easily customizable templates that you can have up and running in minutes, e-commerce, email and email marketing, SEO, analytics, and scheduling, Squarespace does it all and has done it for us for the last 10 years. If you are a small to mid-sized business in any industry, Squarespace is the place to go for all of your website needs. Hop over to www.squarespace.com/Hugh for a free trial. And if you like what you see and want to move forward, receive 10% off your first order by using the discount code Hugh at checkout. Thanks, Squarespace. About 4 years ago, I published a lengthy and quite personal video entitled Why Black and White Photography. I will put a link to it down in the show notes below or someplace up here if I remember. Today's video, however, Why Color Photography, is going to be much, much shorter, although no less personal. In both cases, it is not out of some inexplicable need to share about me, but instead because I thought some of you might find it helpful as a prompt to explore the hows and whys of your own photography. Because, yes, it's about the gear, but no, it's not about the gear. It's about the people, most especially the person behind the camera. This is where the real work for a photographer, for any of us really, irrespective of title or label, lies. The work one does on one's self. Hey everybody, I'm Hugh Brownstone for Three Blind Men and an Elephant. And for those of you who don't know me, street photography, which I define as the built environment and the people in it, seen or unseen, is the genre. Black and white, the rendering through which I most clearly express and in turn can see myself. Perhaps, if only in part, this is because black and white photography begins as an abstraction, the absence of color already one step removed from reality. It dawns on me that this comports quite well with my own tendency to be more than a touch analytical or abstract. I see in my black and white images of the urban landscape a preoccupation with shape, geometry, juxtaposition, precision, light and shadow, how things do or do not fit together. Architecture, more generally, of course, that I can trace to my early childhood. Endless play and fascination, first with wooden building blocks, then erector sets, Kenner, girder, and panel building sets, thousands of Lego pieces. A bit later, model building. Everything from 1/25th scale cars to, who remembers what scale, aircraft, ships. Slot car race sets by Aurora and Tyco. Customizing my HO scale cars, courtesy of aftermarket parts I found and ordered through the mail order catalog for those things, Auto World. I see in my classic street shots and street portraiture. Beyond all of that, irony, paradox, humor, heartbreak, joy, serendipity, trust, distrust, what one might be inclined to consider higher order sensitivities I developed as I grew older, my sense of buildings and infrastructure as history, time portals unto themselves, born of a turn later in my life as an autodidact fascinated by how the world unfolded in the 20th century and the implications thereof for the 21st. Finally, and most rewarding emotionally, I see my own curiosity and optimism about people's generosity, strangers' willingness to say, yes, you can take the shot, and the reassurance from both that the world is not a uniformly terrible place. Not that anyone else may see any of this, but that's okay by me. To each his or her own. So, why color photography now? Even as I am familiar with and hold in the highest regard the color work of Saul Leiter and Ernst Haas especially, as well as others like Joel Meyerowitz, Fred Herzog, Martin Parr, Stephen Shore, I don't think my recent turn toward color has anything to do with them. I think, in my case, it really comes down to just three things. First, I believe, this ought to be reasonably obvious given what I've shared with you over the last few minutes, that we are truly most successful as artists when we see bits of ourselves, recognize our own artistic voice, that is, our origin story and our continuing, evolving story called life, in our work. Even better, if we choose to share that work when other people see, best of all, feel that artistic voice too. However that voice resonates with them. Second, I believe that in this regard, our art can be a uniquely powerful vector into thoughts and feelings that may be less accessible to us through other means. The subtext of our work sometimes signaling a leading or lagging indicator of change within. Third, to my surprise, through my increasingly frequent choice to render in color, especially when I look at my work during the editing process, so I've had time, I think I see, no, I know I see a change in me just recently. These last 4 years have meant different things to different people, but without getting into the details, I will tell you that they have rocked my world. They have shaken me to the core. The thing of it is, my recent black and white work, for the most part, there are one or two very notable exceptions, doesn't reflect any of this back to me. My black and white work during the depths of the pandemic, though, oh yeah, that does. Thinking about my recent color work, though, I see a tipping point. I've come to recognize that apparently now I need a different kind of reassurance that the world is okay. A kind of reassurance, it turns out, that comes only from a return to the elemental, the foundational, something beyond the reach of doom scrolling, the feeling of dread that comes from the clear and present dangers of the Orwellian and Huxleyan dystopian visions of the future made manifest in the here and now. Personal loss, overbooked flights, AI hate, the Luddites were underrated. Fear. Something that can be had only by turning away from the soaring ambition, optimism, and energy of the machine age for which New York City so grandly takes center stage. The city I have called home my entire life, even when I didn't live there. And a turn toward sunlight, fresh air, sand under my bare feet, sand between my toes, the rhythm of the surf, the indistinct murmur of nearby and happy and unafraid voices, a lone accordion player on a bench at the beach, a strong onshore breeze in my face, eyes closed, that comes as close as this secular Jew can imagine to being touched by God. All reminiscent of a different set of childhood experiences, a time of innocence, a time of being at one with nature, a time of possibilities, and a yearning as an adult for connection to something ineffable, eternal, natural, innate. A return to feeling at one with nature, at one with the rest of humanity and the world in which our species coexists in harmony with so many others. And in that connection, in that figurative and literal grounding, maybe, just maybe, I've suddenly found a resonance with the most profound value of color for me, the removal of that one level of abstraction black and white offers me, in turn taking me one step closer to the natural world. And the state of bliss that can come, if only for a moment or two at a time, from feeling an integral part of it, something bigger, grander, and purer than man alone, as an apex predator species intent on killing off itself and everything else around it, if nothing else does first. Although, yeah, it's still me shooting. I still see much of the same characteristics I mentioned in my black and white imagery showing up in my color work. Sometimes, now color does slide into my usual street work. But every now and again, when it does, most recently anyway, I see that same need for a new reassurance captured in a way that is new to me. But hey, that's just me. More importantly, what about you? This video is brought to you by Squarespace. From custom domains to beautiful websites using their easily customizable templates that you can have up and running in minutes, e-commerce, email and email marketing, SEO, analytics, and scheduling, Squarespace does it all and has done it for us for the last 10 years. If you are a small to mid-sized business in any industry, Squarespace is the place to go for all of your website needs. Hop over to www.squarespace.com/Hugh for a free trial. And if you like what you see and want to move forward, receive 10% off your first order by using the discount code HUGH at checkout. Thanks, Squarespace.